Salveta. So here we go back again with a little video Virgil. Let's kick it off with prayer and another little look at the verse of the week. So if you will, go ahead and pray with me. In nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti. Father, we thank you so much for the provision that you make for this life and for the next. We're more grateful than words could ever say for the sacrifice of Jesus, the great gift of his love and the redemption that is ours through his work on the cross. As we're in these early days of Advent, Father, we pray that you keep our minds and hearts open to what you want to do with us and through us this season. Help us to have that sense of joyful expectation that really is the heart of Advent. And we lift that up to you now in nomine Patris et Filii et Spiritus Sancti. Looking at this verse of the week again, so if you want to take a look at it, obviously it's not on the board. I wasn't able to get in there and to write that this week, but it is on the Canvas calendar, and you should have copied it into the faith section of your notebook. The Isaiah 46:4. Usque ad senectam ego ipse et usque ad canos ego portabo. I just want to look at the first part of that. Something that's interesting about Hebrew poetry is that it often repeats. That's one of the hallmarks of Hebrew poetry. Obviously, the Psalms are poetry. And it'll take a phrase and just repeat it or say it in a slightly different way. And so notice what God says here. Usque ad senectam, all the way to old age, ego ipse, I myself, and then you grab the verb in the next part, portabo, I will carry, and it's implied you. I will carry you all the way to old age. You're going, oh, okay, that's really nice, right? You're going to carry me my whole life through all the way to old age. And then you realize he basically just repeats it. He says, et usque ad canos ego portabo, and all the way to your gray or white hair, I will carry you. I think there's something to Hebrew poetry in terms of the repetition. We all have to have things repeated. How many times does God say things over and over and over again to us just to make sure that we really get it? And so, obviously I've got some more of the gray, white hairs than any of you do, of course. But something to remember even at your age, right? For your entire life. And then repeating it all the way to when you're gray-haired, God will carry you. So what a beautiful promise there. Well, speaking about poetry, let's get back into the Virgil. And so we're looking at lines 735 through 759. We left off last time with Turnus, right? The sword, he comes clashing down on Aeneas' armor, and the sword just, boom, it breaks. And he's like, what in the world? And I'm just holding a hilt there in his hand. And 735 says, Fama est praecipitem, cum prima in proelia junctos conscendebat equos patrio mucrone relicto dum trepidat ferrum aurigae rapuisse metisci. Virgil says, the story is, right? Rumor has it, fama est, right? That he, and it's talking about Turnus, and we get praecipitem is the accusative adjective here, modifying the implied Turnus, and it's accusative going with the rapuisse there in 737, so making really an indirect statement. Okay, so fama est introduces an indirect statement. And again, when we go over any of these kinds of things, grammar, literary stuff, history, culture, mythology, references or whatever, you certainly would want to note these, because what you're trying to do, right, in the IB or in this course, and get you ready for IB, is really just to get a keener and keener and keener awareness of all these kinds of little things. Again, the grammar, the literary, the history, culture stuff, so that when you see it on paper, really big paper 2, come May, you're able to answer those kinds of questions, right? So you've got that kind of keen, intuitive sense about it. So rumor has it, or it is said, that he headlong, praecipitem means that he was just blundered, going boom, just dashing headlong, And then we don't really quite get that rapuisse just yet, right? It waits to a couple lines later. Cum prima improlia junctos conscendebat equos. When he was climbing up onto his joined horses, his yoked horses, in the first battle, with his patrio mucrone relicto, with his father's blade having been left behind, while he was just scurrying about, right? Trepidation. The rumor has it that he snatched up the ferrum, that he grabbed the iron or grabbed the sword of his charioteer, Metiscus. So this wasn't his standard blade, right? He usually carried his father's blade into battle. This was not his father's blade. It was his charioteer's. Idque diu dum terga dabam palantia tucri suffecit. And so he says, and this diu for a long time, while the Teucrians, it's another name for the Trojans, while the Trojans were giving, were literally giving their struggling backs. To give your back in war means you've turned around, right? So if I'm looking at you right now, but if I turn around, I'm giving you my back, which means I'm fleeing away from you. And so this blade that he got from his friend Metiscus, while the Trojans, the Teucrians, were giving their scared backs, suffecit. It sufficed. It was sufficient, right? It was good enough for fighting against scared Trojans, right? Postquam arma Dei ad Vulcania ventum est. But after it came against the arma, the Vulcania arma, the arms of Vulcan, right? The arms of a god. Because what's happened is that Vulcan, who is the actual husband of Venus, you may recall from mythology, not the father of Aeneas, but Venus's actual husband. Venus had asked at some point for Vulcan to make a new set of armor for Aeneas. So this is divine armor that this blade comes up against, and it's no match. It says, this mortalis mucro glacies quo futilis ictu desilvit. It says this mortal blade, right? It just desilvit. It just broke apart at the blow, at the ictu. So futilis glacies, as if it was useless ice, right? Just like a big blade of ice. Oh, wow, it's really pretty. But hit against something's going to shatter, right? So that's exactly what happened. Fulva resplendent fragmenta harena. And the fragments, the pieces, glitter on the fulva harena, on the tawny, or the kind of sandy-colored sand. So you just crash, oops, right? And all the blade is crashed out of the sand. Ergo amens diversa fuga petit aequora Turnus. Well, no kidding. Therefore, Turnus amens, and we had that word the other day, literally out of his mind, right? He diversa aequora petit, he seeks separate planes, separate fields of battle through flight, right? So in other words, he just runs away. And nunc huc inde huc incertos implicat orbis. And now here, and now here. Notice the repetition of the hook and the hook. Now over here, and now over here. He simply implicat incertos orbis. He literally just winds around uncertain circles. It's our idiom. He runs around in circles. He just doesn't know what to do since he doesn't have a functioning blade anymore. I don't know if any of you have ever watched that show Forged in Fire. It's one of our family's favorites. It's on Netflix now. It's on the History Channel. And they have blacksmiths come in, and it's a competition. They try to make different swords and knives and so forth. And one of the tests they often do is a strength test where they will take the blade and just smash it into like deer antlers or something that's really, really hard. And all the bladesmiths are just cringing and hoping their blade doesn't break. And sometimes they do, and it'll just shatter. And so that's exactly what's happened here. Undique undiquenem densa tucrin clusera corona ad quinc vasta palus hinc ardua moenia cingunt. It says from all sides, undique, the Teucrians, meaning the Trojans again, they enclosed him with a dense ring, right? So when the Trojans now see that Turnus is in bad shape. Right now, they all start to move back in. They've given space for Turnus and Aeneas to fight. Now they start to move back in, right? They enclosed him with this ring. And atque hinc, and then hinc again. So we got that repetition of the words. And then from over here on this side, and then from over here on this side, there is a vasta palus, there's a vast swamp, and ardua moenia, and the tough walls of the city. All these things, kingunt, they hem him in. So as he's running around, just running around in circles, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? Well, the Trojans start moving in on him. Well, I can't go that way. Oh, there's a swamp over there. I'm going to be back up against the wall of the city. I don't want to have the wall at my back. So he's getting trapped. Nec minus Aeneas, right? Aeneas is going to miss a chance here. So 747 or 746. Nonetheless, Aeneas, quamquam tardata sagita interdum genua imperium cursumque recursa. Although it says his knees that have been made slow by an arrow impediunt him, impede him, slow him down, and cursum recusat, and hold back his course. Even though his knees aren't good, and in another part of the story that we didn't read, Aeneas did get wounded with an arrow in the leg. And so he says, even though he's suffering from that arrow wound, and his knees are kind of weak, they impediunt him, they block him, they recursant, cursum, they hold back his course. Nevertheless, he insequitur, he pursues, trepidique pedem pede fervidus erget, and he presses on, he erget, he presses on, he being fervidus. Fervidus is the root word fever and fervent, and he just presses on in a fiery rage. He presses on the pedem, he presses on the foot of the trepidi. He presses on the foot of the one who is fearful. So Turnus, who is fearful. He presses on his foot with his foot. In other words, he goes toe-to-toe with him, right? It's almost the same idiom in English. In English, we go toe-to-toe with somebody, or we fight hand-to-hand, right? That's the kind of the language we use, and very similar in Latin. So he goes, he literally pushes his foot, he pushes the foot of the scared one with his foot, right? So he's just right hot on his trail. And inclusum veluti si quando flumine noctus ceruum aut puniciae saeptum formidine pennae venator cursu canes et latratibus insta. And then he gives another one of these similes here. He says, it's just like, right? It's just like when something has caught a hold of a ceruum, a deer that's been inclusum flumine, that's been literally kind of bound or kind of caught up by a river, or that is saeptum formidine, or that is actually surrounded by fear, the fear of the puniciae pennae, the fear of the literally it's nice alliteration, puniciae pennae, the purple pennant, almost. The puniciae is the word punic, coming from the land of Phoenicia. So this is Asia Minor. Phoenicia is Asia Minor. The famous city is Tyre, Tyre, and they're famous for producing purple. And so the adjective punicia means purple or crimson colored. And so it's talking about when something has gotten a hold. We don't know what that something is just yet. But it says something's gotten a hold of, it's just like when something's gotten a hold of a deer that is trapped by a river, or that is hemmed in by the fear of the crimson feather, meaning the crimson feather of an arrow. So there's a deer, and the deer is trapped by the river and kind of running around scared of getting hit by an arrow. What is it? Oh, it's the venator canis, the hunter dog, right? So it's just like a hunter dog that is getting a hold of a deer that's all scared, and latratibus instat, and presses on with his ruff, ruff, ruff barking. Latro is the Latin word for to bark. Aeneas is like a barking dog going after a timid deer. Ille autem insidiis et ripa territus alta mille fugit refugitque vias. Now, ille, meaning the deer, right? It says terrified, absolutely terrified by insidiis, by traps, right? Is there traps out here? Is something going to get me? and by the Alta Ripa, by the steep bank. The deer is afraid to go close to the river. The deer might fall into the river because of the steep bank. The deer fugit and refugit, flees and reflees, right? Mille vias, 1,000 ways. The deer is just all over the place, and deer are notorious for being very skittish animals, as you may well know. Ad vividus umber haerechians, but the umber, who is full of life, right? So Umbria is a region in Italy, and it was known for producing hunting dogs, right? So the Umbrian is the hunting dog here, and he's just vividus. He's full of life. The deer is full of fear, and the Umbrian dog is full of life. And he just, he just clings in there. Hians, mouth is gaping. This is where we get the word hiatus. Or if you go into medicine, you might discover something about a hiatal hernia, which is a problem in your digestive area, where there's a hiatus that opens up. So this dog is just pressing on, and its jaw is hians. It's gaping open. Yam que tenet, similisque tenentian crepuit malis, morsuque elusus inani est. And now, he holds him, right? The dog is like there, he's right there grabbing the deer. And he's just like one who is holding on and barking with his jaws. And he's elusus, morsu inani est. And he is kind of mocked. It's like the dog is kind of being made fun of by his empty bite. In other words, the dog is so fierce, he really thinks he's got the deer. And he's like, har, 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 har. He's just snapping at the deer. And he really thinks he's got the deer. And he's like, har, no deer, and he attacks the deer again, right? So maybe some of you who have dogs, you kind of know how they do. Tum vero exoritur clamor, ripaeque lacusque responsant circa, caelum tonat omne tumultu. And then truly a shouting rises up, and the banks and the lakes, they all sound back all around. And the sky, all the sky, omne caelum, all the sky echoes with the tumult, right? So there's this sounds of battle all over the place. Ille, talking about Turnus now. Simul fugiens rutulos, simul increpat omnes, nomine quemque vocans, notumque efflagetat ensem. And as he is fleeing, Turnus, as soon as he basically, he calls out, he increpat, he's like, hey you, right? That's kind of increpat here. Notice it's the same word as we saw with the dog, interestingly enough, even though Aeneas is really the dog and Turnus is the deer, yet he's kind of used the dog verb now, talking about Turnus, and so Turnus is almost like barking at the Rutulians, all the Rutulians, omnes Rutulos. And calling each one by name, right? Hey, you, Bob, Sam, John, I don't think those are Rutulian names, but you get the idea. And calling each one by name, he demands his known sword, notum ensem. Where's my actual sword, right? I don't want this piece of junk that I got from my charioteer. That broke in battle. So there you go. Well, there it is. You've got some lines now. So again, if you need to back this up, slow it down, go back through it. Do, of course, noting questions to send me or ask me. And again, I will not be back this week, so we will see another one of these on Thursday and Friday. So, well, later.